The complete story. The alarm screamed through the Nevada night at 2:47 in the morning. William Harrison Bone, to everyone who mattered, was already awake. At 53, sleep had become a stranger, another casualty of a war that had ended a decade ago, but still raged in his mind. He sat on the edge of his bed in the darkness, the same position he had held since midnight, listening to the desert breathe beyond the walls of the Hells Angels clubhouse. The alarm meant something was at the gate. His hand moved to the baseball bat beside his nightstand. Old habits from Afghanistan, from the years when hesitation meant death. He crossed to the security monitors without turning on a single light. The blue glow illuminated his face, carved deep with lines that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with loss. What he saw made him stop breathing. A boy, maybe 15, maybe younger, covered in something dark that could only be blood, and in his arms, bundled against his chest like the most precious cargo in the world, a little girl. The boy's legs gave out even as Bone watched. He collapsed to his knees, but his arms never loosened, never let go of the child he carried. Bone's hand moved to the leather cord around his neck, to the locket that hung there. Inside was a photograph of a little girl with his eyes and her mother's smile. Sarah, dead 12 years. Cancer didn't care that she was only 9. Cancer didn't care about anything. He learned that the hard way. Razor. His voice cut through the clubhouse like a blade drawn across stone. Mac, get up now. Razor appeared first shirtless, pistol in hand, moving with the fluid economy of a man who'd spent 20 years as the club's vice president. He didn't ask questions. He looked at the monitor and his jaw tightened. Who the hell? Don't know yet. Bone was already moving toward the front door. But we're about to find out. The Nevada night hit him like a furnace, even at 3 in the morning. Summer didn't care about clocks. The boy looked up as the door opened, his face, a geography of terror, dirt, blood, and something worse. Something that made Bone's stomach clench with recognition. He'd seen that look before, in Kabul, in Kandahar, in the eyes of children who'd watched their families die. Please. The word came out broken, desperate, a sound scraped from the bottom of a 15-year-old soul. Please protect her. They're coming. They'll kill her. Please. The boy collapsed. The girl tumbled from his arms, and Bone lunged forward, catching her before she hit the concrete. She weighed nothing, less than nothing, like holding a bundle of sticks wrapped in a torn dress that had once been white. Razor, get them inside. Mac, lock that gate and kill the lights. All of them. Razor holstered his weapon and scooped up the unconscious boy. The kid groaned but didn't wake. Blood dripped from a gash on his forehead, leaving a trail across the concrete like breadcrumbs in a nightmare. Mac sprinted toward the gate controls. Within seconds, the compound went dark. Inside, Bone laid the girl on the leather couch in the common room. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing came shallow and fast, the rhythm of a heart pushed beyond its limits. She clutched a ragged teddy bear against her chest, its fur matted with dirt, and God knew what else. She's burning up, Bone said, pressing the back of his hand to her forehead. Fever's got to be 103, maybe higher. Razor set the boy down on the floor nearby. Kid's dehydrated as hell. Look at his lips cracked straight through. How far you think they walked? Could be miles. Bone studied the boy's face, the hollows beneath his eyes, the way his skin seemed stretched too tight over his bones. Could be more. Mac burst back through the door. Gates locked. Cameras are up. I don't see anyone on the... He stopped when he saw the children. Jesus Christ, what happened to them? That's what we're going to find out. Bone straightened his back, protesting with a crack that sounded too loud in the sudden silence. Mac, get water, clean towels, first aid kit from my office. On it. Razor, call Elena. Razor's eyebrows shot up. Your ex-wife, it's 3 in the morning. She's a nurse. These kids need medical attention, and we can't exactly take them to a hospital right now. Not until we know what we're dealing with. Razor pulled out his phone and stepped away, already dialing. The girl stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, confused. She saw Bone's face looming over her, a stranger, a man, someone who could hurt her, and her entire body went rigid. Then she screamed. Not a normal scream, not the cry of a child waking up scared in an unfamiliar place. This was something else, something primal, something that had been building inside her for months, maybe years, compressed under layers of fear and pain, until it finally found its way out. She screamed and screamed and screamed, and then just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Her mouth kept moving, her chest kept heaving, but no sound came out. She'd retreated somewhere deep inside herself, somewhere the world couldn't reach her anymore. Bone had seen shell shock in soldiers. He'd seen trauma in ways most people couldn't imagine. But this little girl with her silent screaming and her ancient eyes, this was different. Hey, his voice dropped to something gentle, something he'd almost forgotten he was capable of. Hey, sweetheart, you're safe. No one going to hurt you here. She stared at him with eyes that had seen too much. The boy groaned from the floor. Lily. His eyes snapped open. He tried to sit up, failed, tried again. When he saw Bone standing over the girl, something changed in his face. The fear was still there, but now it was wrapped in something harder. He lunged. Bone caught the kid's wrist before his fist connected. Easy, easy, I'm not gonna hurt her. Get away from her. Kid, look around. You came to us. You asked us to protect her. That's what we're doing. The boy's eyes darted around the room. Leather furniture, motorcycle parts on shelves, a wall covered in patches and photographs, men in cuts standing in doorways watching. Slowly the fight drained out of him. Where am I? Hell's Angels Clubhouse, Nevada chapter. I'm Bone. I'm the president here. He released the kid's wrist. Now you want to tell me who's after you and why? The boy looked at the girl. She was still staring at nothing, clutching her bear, her mouth moving in silent words. Her name's Lily, he said quietly. She hasn't talked in 6 months. Not since what? The boy shook his head. Mac returned with water towels and the first aid kit. He handed a bottle to Bone, who pressed it into the boy's hands. Drink, slow. The kid drank like he'd never tasted water before. What's your name, son? Marcus. All right, Marcus. How old are you? 15. And the girl Lily, how old is she? 8, I think. She doesn't remember her birthday. Bone felt something cold settle in his stomach. She doesn't remember. Marcus shook his head again. His hands were trembling now. Water sloshed in the bottle. Marcus, I need you to talk to me. Where did you come from? Who's chasing you? They'll kill us if they find us. Who? Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at Lily, then back at Bone. Something shifted in his eyes, a decision being made. There's a ranch about 40 miles east, out in the desert off the roads. Nobody knows it's there. What kind of ranch? The kind where kids go in and don't come out. The room went silent. Razor stepped forward, his phone still in his hand. Elena's on her way. 20 minutes. He looked at Marcus. Kid, what exactly are you saying? Marcus set down the water bottle. His hands were steadier now. Like talking about it somehow made it more real, more manageable. I've been there for 3 years, since I was 12. They grabbed me outside a bus station in Phoenix, told me they were taking me to a group home. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. It wasn't a group home. What was it? A holding facility. They keep kids there, move them around, sell them to whoever pays. Mac made a sound like someone had punched him in the gut. Bone held up a hand to silence him. How many kids? When I left, 12, down in the basement, in cages. The word hung in the air like smoke. Cages. Lily was in the one next to mine, Marcus continued, his voice cracking. She was there when I arrived. She was 5 years old. Bone closed his eyes just for a moment, just long enough to push down the rage building in his chest. How did you get out? One of the guards got careless, left a door unlocked after he... Marcus stopped, swallowed hard. After he finished with one of the younger kids, I grabbed Lily and ran. We've been walking for 2 days. 2 days in this heat. We traveled at night, hid during the day, found water where we could. He looked at Lily. She stopped walking about 10 miles back. I carried her the rest of the way. Bone did the math in his head. 10 miles through the desert carrying an 8-year-old in the middle of summer. The kid should be dead. How did you know to come here? Marcus met his eyes. I didn't. I saw the bikes outside, saw the sign. My dad used to ride before he died. He told me that bikers look after their own, that they protect people who can't protect themselves. His voice wavered. I didn't have anywhere else to go. Razor crouched down next to Marcus. The people who run this place, the ranch, do they know you're gone? Yeah, they know. And they're looking for you. They'll never stop looking. Marcus looked at Lily. She's worth too much to them. Worth too much? What does that mean? Marcus looked away. There was a man. He came to the ranch 3 times. He had money, real money. He wanted to buy her. Buy her. The owner said no at first. They said she was too young, but the last time he came, he squeezed his eyes shut. I heard them talking. They made a deal. He was coming back for her. That's when I knew we had to run. The front door opened. Elena walked in, medical bag in hand, silver hair pulled back in a practical braid. She took one look at the scene and her nurse's instincts kicked in. Everyone out except Bone, now. Razor, Mac, and the other members filtered toward the back of the clubhouse. Elena knelt beside Lily. Her movements were calm, professional. What's her name? Lily, Bone said. Lily, sweetheart. I'm Elena. I'm a nurse. I'm going to check you over, okay? I'm not going to hurt you. Lily didn't respond, didn't blink, didn't move. Elena began her examination with gentle efficiency. Pulse, temperature, eyes, ears. She lifted the girl's thin arms to check for injuries and stopped. Bone. Her voice had changed, harder, colder. What is it? Elena pushed up the sleeve of Lily's dress. Even in the dim light, Bone could see them. Small, circular scars running up and down the inside of her arm. Cigarette burns, dozens of them, some old and faded, some fresh enough that they were still scabbed over. Bone felt his hands curl into fists. There's more, Elena said quietly. She moved to Lily's back, lifting the dress just enough to see welts, bruises in various stages of healing, marks that could only have come from a belt or a switch. How long? Bone's voice was barely a whisper. Some of these are years old. Elena lowered the dress, her face pale. Some are days old. This child has been systematically abused for most of her life. Marcus spoke from behind them. They all have. All 12 of them. But Lily got it worse because she wouldn't stop crying. In the beginning, before she stopped talking, she used to cry for her mom. They beat her until she stopped. Elena turned to look at the boy. Let me see you. Take off your shirt. I'm fine. That wasn't a request. Marcus hesitated, then pulled his hoodie over his head. His torso told the same story. Scars, bruises, ribs visible beneath skin stretched too tight. Jesus, Elena breathed. I'm fine, Marcus repeated. Just take care of Lily. Bone stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the darkness beyond. His reflection stared back at him, an old man with too many ghosts. 40 miles east, a ranch in the desert, 12 children in cages. He'd spent 20 years riding with the Hells Angels. He'd done things he wasn't proud of, things that would send him to prison if anyone ever found out. But he'd always lived by a code. Protect the innocent. Punish the guilty. Never ever harm a child. Someone had violated that code in the worst possible way. And they were still out there, still operating, still hurting kids. But standing here looking at his reflection, Bone felt something he hadn't felt in 12 years. Fear. Not fear of the people who ran that ranch. Not fear of what they might do if he interfered. Fear of failing. He'd failed Sarah. He'd watched cancer eat her alive, and he couldn't do a damn thing about it. He'd held her hand as she died and promised her he'd be okay knowing it was a lie. What if he failed these kids too? What if he tried to save them and couldn't? What if... Bone. Elena's voice pulled him back. I need to talk to you, outside. They stepped out into the desert night. The heat pressed against them like a living thing. Those children need a hospital, Elena said without preamble. They need proper medical care. They need... We can't take them to a hospital, not yet. Why not, Because whoever runs that ranch, they have to have connections. Law enforcement. Medical facilities. How else could they operate for years without anyone noticing? Bone looked at her. We take those kids to a hospital, and within an hour, someone makes a phone call, and then they disappear. For good this time. Elena's jaw tightened. So what do? We keep them safe, we gather information, and then what? You ride out there and take on a trafficking ring, you and your brothers. She shook her head. That's not a rescue mission, Bone. That's suicide. What would you have me do? Turn them over to the system. The same system that's been failing kids like this for decades. I would have you be smart, strategic, not... She stopped. Not do what you always do. And what's that? Act like saving everyone else will somehow make up for the one person you couldn't save. The words hit him like a physical blow. That's not what this is about, isn't it? Elena's voice softened. I love Sarah too. I know what it's like to lose her, but throwing yourself into danger because you think you owe the universe something that's not going to bring her back. I know that. Do you? Because the look in your eyes right now tells me you're planning something that has a very good chance of getting you killed. Bone was quiet for a long moment. There are 12 kids in cages, he finally said. 12 children who are being hurt. Right now, while we stand here talking, and if I don't do something, no one will. That's not true. There are people agencies that have already failed them. Bone turned to face her fully. Marcus said he was taken 3 years ago. Lily's been there since she was 5. That's 3 years of agencies and systems and people who were supposed to protect them doing nothing. Elena looked at him, really looked at the man she'd married 20 years ago, the man she'd divorced 10 years ago when the grief became too much, when loving him meant drowning alongside him. You're going to do this no matter what I say, aren't you? I have to. Why? Because... Bone stopped. The words caught in his throat. Because if I don't, then what was the point? What was the point of surviving when Sarah didn't? What was the point of living through all this if I can't at least try to save someone? Elena reached out and took his hand. Then I'm helping. Elena, don't argue with me. You'll lose. She squeezed his hand. You always do. Despite everything, Bone almost smiled. They went back inside. Marcus was still sitting on the floor next to the couch where Lily slept. The boy's eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted, but he refused to close them. Bone pulled up a chair and sat across from him. Can I ask you something? Marcus nodded. Lily, you said she was there when you arrived 3 years ago. That means she was 5. Yeah. Do you know where she came from? Who her parents are? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. She used to talk about them. Before she stopped talking, she said her mom had brown hair and her dad sang songs to her before bed. She said they were going to the doctor and then a man grabbed her. Grabbed her from where? A parking lot, a hospital parking lot. She said she was in the car and her mom went inside to get something, and when she came back, Lily was gone. Bone felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. Her parents didn't abandon her. No, someone took her. She was 5 years old, waiting in a car for her mom, and someone took her. Do you know where, what city? She couldn't remember. She was too young. All she remembered was the man had a blue truck and he gave her candy that made her sleep. Blue truck. Candy. A 5-year-old girl stolen from a hospital parking lot. Somewhere out there, Lily's parents were still looking for her, still hoping, still waiting. We're going to find them, Bones said. Her parents. We're going to find them and bring them their daughter back. Marcus looked at him. And if they don't want her anymore, it's been 3 years. What if they've moved on? What if they've given up? Have you ever met a parent who's lost a child? Marcus shook his head. They never give up. They never move on. They spend every day of their lives wondering what happened, praying for a miracle. Bones' voice was rough. Trust me, I know. The sun was fully up now. Light streamed through the windows, harsh and unforgiving. Lily stirred. Her eyes opened, and for a moment they were clear, present. She looked at Marcus, then at Bone, then back at Marcus. Her mouth opened. Her lips formed a word. No sound came out, but Bone could read it. Safe? Marcus took her hand. Yeah, Lily, we're safe. These are good people. They're going to help us. Lily looked at Bone again. Those ancient eyes in that child's face, weighing, judging, deciding. Then she did something she hadn't done in months. She nodded, and Bone felt something crack open in his chest. Something he thought had died with his daughter. Something that felt dangerously like hope. But underneath that hope, fear still coiled, dark and cold. What if he couldn't save them? What if he tried and failed, and those children died because of his failure? What if he pushed the thoughts away? There would be time for doubt later. Right now, there was only action. Razor appeared in the doorway. Bone, we need to talk, now. They stepped into the hallway. Ghost is on the phone. He found something. Ghost was a former FBI agent who'd left the bureau under circumstances no one talked about. He'd been patched into the club 5 years ago and had become their go-to for anything involving information. Bone took the phone. Talk to me. I found the ranch. Ghost's voice was tight. It's real. 43 miles east off Route 93. Properties registered to a shell company out of Delaware. Took me 3 hours to trace it back to the actual owner. Who is it? Ghost paused. You're not gonna like it. Tell me anyway. Sheriff Raymond Dawson, county sheriff. He's owned that property for 15 years. Bone closed his eyes. The sheriff. It gets worse, Ghost continued. His brother Vincent Dawson runs the day-to-day operations. He's got a record. Did time for assault, trafficking charges that got dropped due to insufficient evidence. Looks that way. Anyone else involved? I'm still digging, but I found some interesting financial records. Payments coming in from all over the country, large amounts, all of them routed through a charity called Desert Hope Foundation. Let me guess, the charity claims to help homeless children. Give the man a prize. Bone opened his eyes. Through the window, he could see the desert stretching out toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, 12 children were waiting in cages. How do we get to them? That's the tricky part. The property is fenced, armed guards, security cameras. It's set up like a compound. Going in loud would be suicide. Then we go in quiet. You're going to need a plan, a good one. Bone smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. I spent 15 years taking down enemy installations in places you couldn't pronounce. A ranch in the Nevada desert, that's a vacation. He hung up and looked at Razor. Call church. Everyone. I don't care if it's 8 in the morning. I want every member in the chapel in 1 hour. What do I tell them? Bone turned. His face had changed. The weariness was gone. In its place was something cold, something dangerous, something that men had learned to fear on battlefields and in back alleys for decades. But underneath it all, that fear still whispered. What if you fail? He pushed it down, locked it away. Tell them we're going to war. The chapel was a converted storage room at the back of the clubhouse. No windows, one door, a long wooden table surrounded by chairs, each one marked with a member's name. 15 men filled the room. All of them wore their cuts. All of them looked like they'd rather be sleeping. None of them complained. Bones stood at the head of the table. 3 hours ago, a boy and a little girl showed up at our gate. They escaped from a place about 40 miles east of here, a place where children are being held against their will. The murmuring started immediately. Bone held up his hand. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. What I'm about to tell you is going to make you sick. It's going to make you angry. It's going to make you want to ride out there right now and burn that place to the ground. He paused. I need you to listen to everything before you react. Understood. Nods around the table. Bone told them everything. The ranch, the cages, the abuse, the buyers, the children who went in and never came out. By the end, the room was silent. But it wasn't a peaceful silence. It was the silence of a bomb before it detonates. Mac was the first to speak. His voice shook. How many kids did you say? 12 that Marcus knows of. 12 kids in cages for years. Yes. Mac stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Then what are we sitting here for? Let's go. Sit down. Bone. I said sit down. Mac's jaw clenched, but he righted his chair and sat. Razor spoke next. His voice was calm, measured. The voice of a man who'd learned long ago that anger was more dangerous when it was controlled. What's the play? First, we get more information. We need to know exactly where this ranch is, how many people are running it, what kind of security they have. We go in blind, we get killed, and those kids never get rescued. And then we make a decision, together, as a club. An older member named Doc raised his hand. What about the cuffs if there's really a trafficking operation out there? The kid says they've got law enforcement on payroll. You believe him. I believe the marks on that little girl's body. I believe what I saw in that boy's eyes. Someone has been hurting those children for years and no one has stopped them. Either the cops are involved or they're so incompetent they might as well be. Doc nodded slowly. So we handle it ourselves. We investigate first, then we decide. Razor stood up. I'll call Ghost back. If anyone can find out what's really going on at that ranch, it's him. Do it. Tell him I need everything he can find by tomorrow night. What about the kids? Mac asked. Where are they going to stay? Here. For now. Elena's agreed to check on them every day until they're healthy enough to figure out something more permanent. And if the people from the ranch come looking, Bone's expression didn't change. Then they'll find out exactly what happens when you threaten children under our protection. The meeting lasted another hour. Plans were made. Assignments given. By the time the sun climbed higher in the morning sky, the Hells Angels had the beginning of a strategy. But Bone knew it wasn't going to be that simple. It never was. And underneath everything, that fear still gnawed at him. He found Marcus in the common room, sitting on the floor next to the couch where Lily was sleeping. The boy's eyes were red-rimmed, exhausted, but he refused to close them. You should sleep, Bone said. I will, later. That's what you said 2 hours ago. Marcus shrugged. Bone lowered himself to the floor, groaning as his knees protested. He wasn't as young as he used to be. Can I ask you something? Marcus nodded. Lily, you said she was there when you arrived 3 years ago. That means she was 5. Yeah. You've been protecting her all this time. It wasn't a question. Marcus looked at the sleeping girl. As much as I could, which wasn't much. His voice turned bitter. I couldn't stop them from hurting her. I couldn't stop them from doing what they did. All I could do was be there after, hold her hand, tell her it would be okay, even though I knew it was a lie. It's not a lie anymore. Marcus turned to look at him. I'm going to make you a promise right now, Bone said. And I've never broken a promise in my life. No one is ever going to hurt that little girl again. I will burn this state to the ground before I let that happen. Do you understand me? Something broke in Marcus's face. The armor he'd built up over 3 years cracked just for a moment, and Bones saw the child underneath. The scared, exhausted, desperate child who'd been carrying a weight no teenager should ever have to carry. Why? Marcus whispered. Why would you help us? You don't know us. We're nothing to you. Bones sat back. His hand went to the chain around his neck, the one that held a small photograph in a tarnished locket. I had a daughter, Sarah. She would have been about your age now. Would have been. She died 12 years ago, cancer. I'm sorry. So am I, every single day. Bone opened the locket and looked at the faded photo inside. A little girl with his eyes and her mother's smile. After she was gone, I thought I'd never feel anything again. I rode, I drank, I fought. I tried to outrun the grief until I realized it wasn't something you outrun. It's something you carry. He closed the locket. But tonight you showed up at my door. A boy who spent 3 years protecting a little girl because no one else would. A boy who walked 40 miles through the desert because he believed that somewhere, somehow, there were people who would help. Bone met Marcus's eyes. I can't save my daughter. She's gone. But I can save Lily. I can save you. I can make sure that whatever happened in that desert never happens again. Marcus was crying now, not sobbing, just silent tears streaming down his face. What if you can't, he said. What if you try and it all goes wrong and more kids die because of it? And there it was. The fear Bone had been trying to push down, spoken aloud by this 15-year-old boy who understood exactly what failure meant. Then at least I tried, Bone said quietly. At least I didn't sit back and do nothing. But even as he said the words, doubt gnawed at him. What if trying wasn't enough? What if... The front door opened. Elena appeared, her face set in the expression Bone knew meant she had news. We need to talk, now. They stepped outside again. I've been thinking about what you said, Elena began. About the ranch, about going in to rescue those kids. And I think you're terrified. Bone started to protest, but she held up her hand. Not of the people running the ranch. Not of the danger. You're terrified of failing. Of trying to save those children and watching them die anyway. Just like Sarah. The words hit him like stones. That's not... Don't lie to me, Bone. I was married to you for 10 years. I know what fear looks like on your face. Her expression softened. And I understand it. I really do. But there's a difference between what happened with Sarah and what's happening now. What's that? Sarah was fate, a disease that no amount of love or determination could stop. This, she gestured toward the clubhouse. This is choice. Those children are suffering because people chose to hurt them. And they'll keep suffering unless someone chooses to stop it. And if I choose wrong, if I get those kids killed, then you tried. That's more than anyone else has done for them. Elena stepped closer. You're so afraid of failing that you're willing to guarantee it by not trying at all. Is that really what Sarah would want? For you to spend the rest of your life paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake? Bone looked at her. This woman who had loved him, left him, come back to him when 2 desperate children showed up at his door. No, he said quietly, she wouldn't want that. Then stop letting fear make your decisions. You're William Harrison. You spent 15 years in combat zones, saving people who couldn't save themselves. You've earned the right to at least train. Something shifted in Bone's chest. The fear didn't disappear. It never would, but it loosened its grip. You're right. I know I'm right. I'm always right. Elena smiled. Oh, come on. We have work to do. They went back inside. The day passed in a strange rhythm of normalcy and tension. Elena tended to the children. Marcus finally slept, his body winning the argument against his mind. Lily stayed close to him even in sleep, her hand reaching out to touch his arm as if to confirm he was still there. The brothers went about their routines, working on bikes, making phone calls, planning, but everyone moved with the weight of what was coming. At 4 in the afternoon, Bones' phone rang. Ghost. Talk to me. I've got eyes on the ranch. Satellite imagery from this morning. 6 guards on rotation, 2 at the main gate, 2 patrolling the perimeter, 2 at what looks like an underground structure behind the main house. That's where they're keeping the kids. Most likely, the structure is partially underground. Steel door, padlocked from the outside. Bones' jaw tightened. Weapons, rifles, handguns. I spotted what looks like a shotgun on one of the perimeter guards. What about Dawson? Is he there? Sheriff Dawson left the property about 3 hours ago. His brother Vincent is still there. He's the one running things day to day. Anyone else? There's a woman, mid-40s, comes and goes. I think she handles the ghost paused. The buyers. The what? I traced some of the financial records deeper. There's a transaction scheduled for tonight, 11 p.m. Someone's coming to pick up merchandise. Merchandise. Children reduced to merchandise. How much time do we have? It's 4 now, 7 hours, maybe less. We'll be there in 5. Bone. Yeah. I pulled the FBI file on Vincent Dawson. He's done this before. Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona. Every time when the operation got compromised, he burned it down. Buildings, records, everything. The kids too. The kids too. Bones' grip tightened on the phone. Not this time. I'm just telling you what you're dealing with. This man has no limits, no conscience. He will kill every single one of those children if he thinks it'll save his own skin. Then we better make sure he doesn't get the chance. Bone hung up and turned to face his men, 15 brothers, all of them watching him waiting. And underneath his determination, fear whispered its constant refrain. What if you fail? But this time he had an answer. Then at least I tried. Here's what we know, he began. 6 guards, armed, 2 at the gate, 2 on patrol, 2 guarding the structure where the kids are being held. There's a buyer coming at 11. We have 7 hours to get in, get the kids out, and shut this operation down permanently. What about the cops? Doc asked. If the sheriff's involved, we go around the local cops. Ghost is contacting the FBI right now, but we can't wait for them. By the time they mobilize, those kids will be dead. Max stepped forward. I'm in. Me too, Razor said. One by one, every man in the room nodded. Bone felt something swell in his chest, pride, gratitude, love. These men were about to risk everything for children they'd never met. All right, here's the plan. Marcus's voice cut through. I'm coming with you. Every head turned. Absolutely not, Bone said. I know that place better than anyone. I know where the guards stand. I know which doors are locked and which ones aren't. I know where they keep the kids. You're 15 years old. Then I survived 3 years in that hellhole. I got Lily out when no one else could. I'm not sitting here while you try to save those kids blind. Bone stared at the boy, at the determination in his eyes, at the set of his jaw, at the fact that Marcus was right. You stay in the vehicle. You do not get out until I personally tell you it's clear. Understood. Marcus nodded. Understood. Elena appeared at Bone's side. I'm coming too. Elena, don't argue. You'll need medical support. And before you say I should stay with Lily, I've arranged for another nurse to come sit with her, someone I trust completely. Bone looked at her, at this woman who kept showing up when he needed her most. All right, but you follow orders, no exceptions. Since when have I ever followed your orders? Despite everything, Bone almost smiled. Lily suddenly stood up from the couch. She walked over to Bone, her bare feet silent on the floor. She looked up at him with those eyes that had seen too much. Bring them home. 3 words, clear and strong. Bone knelt down to her level. I will, I promise. She reached out and touched the locket around his neck. The one with his daughter's picture. She's watching, Lily whispered. She wants you to save them. Bone couldn't speak. He just nodded, stood up, and walked toward the door. Behind him, fear whispered one more time. What if you fail? And ahead of him, duty answered. Then you try anyway. The night swallowed them whole. 15 motorcycles roared into the darkness, heading east toward the desert, toward the ranch, toward the children who had been waiting for rescue for far too long. Marcus rode behind Mac, his arms wrapped tight around the younger biker's waist. The wind whipped his face. The stars blurred overhead. For the first time in 3 years, he was going back to the place that had stolen his childhood. But this time he wasn't running away. This time he was coming to burn it down. They killed their engines a quarter-mile from the property. The silence was deafening after the roar of 15 bikes. Bone gathered them close. His voice was barely above a whisper. Razor, take Doc and 3 others. Circle around to the north side. There's a weak point in the fence Ghost identified. You get in, you get to that underground structure. You get those kids out. What about the guards? Leave them to me. Bone. I said leave them to me. Razor nodded slowly. He knew that tone. Bone wasn't asking for input. He was giving orders. Mac, you stay with Marcus. Keep him in the vehicle like we discussed. If anything goes wrong, you get him out of here. Nothing's going to go wrong. If it does, promise me. Mac's jaw tightened. I promise. The rest of you with me. We're going through the front gate. Through it. Bone smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. They're expecting us. Let's not disappoint them. They moved through the darkness like ghosts. Years of riding together had made them more than brothers. They could communicate without words, anticipate each other's movements, function as a single unit. The fence came into view, chain link topped with barbed wire. 2 guards at the gate, just like Ghost said. They were smoking, talking, not paying attention. Bone held up his hand. Everyone stopped. He could hear the guards' conversation now. Something about a football game. One of them laughed at something the other said. Normal men having a normal conversation while children rotted in cages behind them. Bone's blood turned to ice. He moved forward alone. Silent. Invisible. 20 years of military training came back like muscle memory. The first guard never saw him coming. One hand over his mouth, the other on a pressure point that dropped him unconscious in seconds. Bone lowered him to the ground without a sound. The second guard turned at the soft thump. His eyes went wide. His hand reached for his rifle. Too slow. Bone was on him before he could make a sound. Another pressure point. Another unconscious body. He waved his men forward. They zip-tied the guards and moved toward the main house. Lights were on inside. Movement behind the windows. Voices. How many? Razor whispered. Bone counted the silhouettes. 3 inside, maybe 4. The kids are in the back structure, underground. You need to move now. Razor nodded and peeled off with his team, disappearing into the shadows around the north side of the property. Bone approached the main house. The front door was 10 feet away. 8, 6. He kicked it in. The door exploded inward. 3 men inside scrambled for weapons. Bone was faster. 2 shots. 2 men down. Non-lethal, shoulders. They wouldn't be using their arms anytime soon. The third man dove behind a couch. Who the hell are you? Where's Vincent Dawson? Go to hell. Bone walked forward, stepped on the wounded man's shoulder, and pressed down. The scream that came out was inhuman. I'll ask one more time. Where is Vincent Dawson? Back building with the merchandise. Please stop. Bone released the pressure. He looked at his brothers. Secure these 3. Make sure they don't go anywhere. What are you going to do? End this. He moved through the house toward the back door. The underground structure was visible now. A concrete bunker built into a small hill. 2 more guards stood at the entrance, rifles ready. They'd heard the commotion. They knew something was wrong. Bone didn't care about stealth anymore. He stepped into the open. Drop your weapons. Both guards raised their rifles. 2 shots rang out from somewhere to Bone's left. Both guards dropped, clutching their legs. Razor emerged from the shadows, pistol smoking. You're welcome. I had it handled. Sure you did. They moved to the bunker entrance, a heavy metal door, padlocked from the outside. They lock kids in from the outside, Razor said, his voice thick with disgust. Bones shot the padlock. It shattered. He pulled the door open. The smell hit him first. Urine, fear, decay. The smell of suffering concentrated in a small space for far too long. Then he heard them, whimpering, crying, small voices begging in the darkness. It's okay, Bone called out, his voice cracking. We're here to help. No one's going to hurt you anymore. He found the light switch. Fluorescent bulbs flickered to life. And Bone saw them. Cages, actual cages like you'd keep animals in, 12 of them lined up against the walls. And in each cage a child. The oldest, maybe 12. The youngest couldn't have been more than 5. Razor made a sound behind him, something between a sweep and a scream. Get them out, Bones said. Get them all out, now. They found bolt cutters in a supply closet. One by one the cages opened. One by one the children emerged, blinking in the light, flinching at every sound. Most of them couldn't walk on their own. They'd been in those cages so long their legs had forgotten how. Doc gathered them together, speaking softly, trying to calm the ones who were crying. Where's Vincent? Bone asked one of the older children, a boy with haunted eyes. The boy pointed toward a door at the back of the bunker. His office! He went in when he heard the noise. Bone walked toward the door. Razor fell in behind him. Bone, wait. Let me... No, this one's mine. He kicked the door open. Vincent Dawson sat behind a desk. A pistol in his hand pointed directly at Bone's chest. Stop right there. Bone stopped. But he didn't raise his hands, didn't show fear. It's over, Vincent. FBI's on the way. Your brother's going to prison. Everyone involved in this operation is going down. Vincent laughed. It was an ugly sound. You think Ray's the one running this? Ray is just the muscle, the protection. This operation is bigger than you can possibly imagine. I don't care how big it is. It ends tonight. Does it? Vincent's grip tightened on the pistol. You think you're the hero here. You think you're saving these kids. You have no idea what you've done. The people I work for, they don't forgive failures. They don't leave witnesses. Then I guess we better make sure there aren't any witnesses to what happened here tonight. Vincent's eyes widened. You wouldn't. You're Hell's Angels. You're not murderers. No, we're not. Bone took a step forward. But I'm a father who lost his daughter. I'm a soldier who swore to protect the innocent. And I'm a man who just watched 12 children crawl out of cages where animals like you kept them for years. Another step. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to put that gun down. You're going to walk out of here in handcuffs, and you're going to spend the rest of your miserable life in a prison cell thinking about what you did. And if I don't, Bone smiled, then I'll put you down myself and sleep like a baby tonight. Vincent's hand was shaking now. His eyes darted to the door behind Bone, looking for escape, finding none. The FBI, he said desperately. They'll cut me a deal. I know names. I know locations. I can give them everything. I'm sure you can, so you need me alive. No, Bone's voice was cold. I need you to stop talking. He moved faster than a man his age should be able to move. His hand closed around Vincent's wrist. The gun discharged into the ceiling. One twist, and the pistol clattered to the ground. Bone's fist connected with Vincent's face. Once, twice, 3 times. Vincent crumpled, blood streaming from his nose and mouth. That's for the children, Bone said. And underneath his rage, underneath his righteous fury, a small voice whispered, You did it. You didn't fail. He grabbed Vincent by the collar and hauled him up. This is for Marcus and Lily. One more punch. Vincent went down and didn't get back up. Razor appeared in the doorway. FBI's 5 minutes out. We need to clear the area. Doc's got the kids. All 12 of them. They're scared but alive. Good. Bone looked down at Vincent's unconscious form. Make sure this garbage is still breathing. The FBI will want to interrogate him. They emerged from the bunker into the cool night air. The children were huddled together near the vehicles wrapped in blankets the team had brought. Some of them were crying, some of them were silent, staring at nothing. Marcus pushed past Mac and ran toward them. He scanned the faces, searching. Tyler. A boy looked up, maybe 10 years old, red hair, freckles hidden beneath dirt and bruises. Marcus. They collided in a hug that almost knocked them both over. You came back, Tyler sobbed. You said you'd send help, and you came back. I told you I would, I promised. Bone watched from a distance, and for the first time in 12 years, the fear was gone. He'd done it. He'd saved them. Not all of them. Not the ones who'd come before. Not the ones who had already been sold or killed or broken beyond repair. But these 12 children were alive because he tried. Then he heard something that made his heart stop. Sirens. Not FBI sirens, different, closer. Sheriff's department. A voice boomed through a megaphone. Everyone on the ground. Now. Sheriff Raymond Dawson's cruiser came screaming up, the road lights blazing. 3 more cruisers behind him. A dozen deputies piled out, weapons drawn. On the ground, all of you. Bone raised his hand slowly. We're not the criminals here, Sheriff. Your brother's inside along with enough evidence to put both of you away for life. Dawson's face contorted with rage. You think you can come into my county and destroy everything I've built. You think you're going to walk away from this. I think the FBI is about 3 minutes behind us. I think they're going to be very interested in what we found here tonight. The FBI. Dawson laughed. By the time the FBI gets here, there won't be anything to find. Just a bunch of dead bikers who broke into a private ranch and got what they deserved. He raised his weapon. Bone didn't flinch. You really want to do this in front of witnesses, in front of children? Witnesses can be silenced. Stop. Everyone froze. Marcus stepped forward, putting himself between Dawson and Bone. You're not going to shoot anyone, Marcus said. His voice was steady, calm, wrong somehow for a 15-year-old boy facing down a corrupt sheriff with nothing but words. Get out of the way, kid. No, I said move. I know about the other places, Marcus's voice cut through the night. I know about the ranch in Arizona, the one in Oklahoma. I know about the buyers, the bank accounts, the shell companies. I know all of it. Dawson's face went pale. You don't know anything. I know about Senator Mitchell, about his visits, about what he paid for. The silence that followed was absolute. I'm 15 years old, Marcus continued. I've been locked in a cage for 3 years. I had nothing to do except listen and watch and remember. He took another step forward. You kill everyone here tonight. You think that makes it go away? I wrote it all down, every name, every date, every transaction. I gave it to someone before we left the clubhouse. If anything happens to me, it goes public. You're lying. You want to risk it? Dawson's hand was shaking now. His deputies were exchanging nervous glances. In the distance, new sirens, getting closer. FBI. You're done, Marcus said quietly. It's over. You can either put your gun down and face justice, or you can die here tonight. Your choice. The standoff lasted an eternity. Then Dawson lowered his weapon. His deputies followed. 10 seconds later, FBI vehicles swarmed the property, agents everywhere. Dawson and his deputies in handcuffs. Vincent dragged out of the bunker unconscious but alive. Bone put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. The boy was trembling now, the adrenaline wearing off. That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I wasn't lying, Marcus's voice was small. I really did write it all down. Elena has it. Of course she does, Bone almost laughed. You've been planning this for years, haven't you? Since the day they took me. I knew someday I'd get out. And I knew when I did, I was going to make sure they could never hurt anyone again. Bone looked at this boy, this 15-year-old who had survived the unsurvivable, who had protected a little girl when no one else would, who had just faced down a corrupt sheriff and won. "You're not a kid anymore," Bone said quietly. "I don't know what you are, but you're not a kid." Marcus looked at the children being loaded into ambulances, at Tyler, who was still clutching his arm like he'd never let go, at the FBI agents swarming the property. "I'm just someone who didn't want anyone else to go through what we went through." "That's not just someone, that's a hero." Marcus shook his head. "I'm not a hero, I'm just tired." And then for the first time since this nightmare began, he let himself collapse. Mac caught him before he hit the ground. "Get him to the ambulance," Bone ordered. "He needs fluids, rest, probably a psych eval." "What about you?" Bone looked at the chaos around him. FBI agents taking statements, paramedics treating children, corrupt cops in handcuffs, a trafficking operation dismantled in a single night. "I need to make a phone call." He walked away from the scene, pulled out his phone and dialed Elena's number. She answered on the first ring. "Tell me everyone's alive." "Everyone's alive. The kids are safe. All 12 of them." Elena's breath caught. "Thank God. Thank God." "How's Lily?" She's something, Bone. She hasn't stopped talking since you left. It's like a dam broke. She's telling me everything. About the ranch, about Marcus, about what they did to her." "That's good. That's progress." "Is it because some of what she's telling me," Elena's voice cracked, "these monsters, what they did to these children?" "I know, I saw." "How do we fix this? How do we help them recover from something like this?" Bone looked up at the stars, the same stars that had watched over those children for years while they suffered. "We do it one day at a time. We give them safety, stability, love, and we never ever let them forget that there are people in this world who will fight for them." "You're a good man, Bone. I'm a man who almost didn't try, who almost let fear win. But you didn't. That's what matters." He hung up and stood there in the darkness. 12 children. That's how many were going to sleep safely tonight because he pushed past his fear and tried anyway. The fear of failure would always be there. He knew that now. It wouldn't magically disappear just because he'd succeeded once. But maybe that was okay. Maybe courage wasn't the absence of fear. Maybe courage was trying anyway. The ride back to the clubhouse was quiet. No roaring engines this time, just the soft hum of exhaustion and relief mixing with something darker, the knowledge that this wasn't over. Bone rode at the front, his body operating on autopilot while his mind replayed everything that had happened. 12 children freed, Vincent Dawson in custody, Sheriff Dawson arrested, a trafficking operation exposed. It should have felt like victory, but something gnawed at him. Something Vincent had said. "This operation is bigger than you can possibly imagine." The clubhouse came into view as dawn broke over the desert. Pink and gold light spilled across the horizon, painting the world in colors that felt too beautiful for what they'd been through. Lily was waiting at the gate. She stood alone, her small figure silhouetted against the rising sun. When she saw the bikes approaching, she started running. Bone barely had time to dismount before she crashed into him. "You're back," she sobbed. "You're back, you're back, you're back." "I told you I would be." "I know, but I was scared. I was so scared." She pulled back and looked at his face, searching for injuries, for signs that this was real. "Is everyone okay? Is Marcus okay? Did you find Tyler?" "Everyone's okay. Marcus is right behind me. And Tyler." Marcus climbed off Mac's bike, and Tyler was right there with him. The two boys hadn't let go of each other since the ranch. Lily made a sound that wasn't quite human, a cry of relief so profound it seemed to come from somewhere deeper than her lungs. She ran to them and threw her arms around both of them. And for a long moment, the three of them just stood there holding each other, crying alive. Elena appeared at Bone's side. She looked exhausted. "The FBI called," she said quietly. "They want to brief you today. They can wait." "Bone, they can wait. These kids need rest. We all need rest." The FBI will still be there tomorrow. Elena didn't argue. She just nodded and walked toward the children, her nurse's instincts kicking in even through her exhaustion. Inside the clubhouse, the atmosphere was strange. Relief mixed with tension. Pride mixed with worry. They'd won a battle, but everyone could feel the war wasn't over. Ghost was waiting in Bones' office laptop, open face grim. We need to talk. Bones sat down heavily. What now? I've been digging into the financial records from the ranch, the ones the FBI seized. Ghost turned the laptop around. You need to see this. The screen showed a complex web of transactions. Money flowing from dozens of sources into the Desert Hope Foundation, then out again to various locations. What am I looking at? A network. The ranch you hit last night, that was one node. There are at least 15 others across 7 states. Bone felt something cold settle in his stomach. 15. That I can confirm. There might be more. Ghost pulled up another document. And there's something else. 3 of the kids you rescued last night, Tyler, a girl named Sophie, and a boy named Danny, their files are flagged. Flagged how? Pre-sold. There were buyers lined up for them specifically, high-value buyers who paid in advance. How much in advance? 6 months ago for Tyler, a year ago for Sophie, 2 years ago for Danny. Bone closed his eyes. They've been waiting that long. And now their merchandise is gone, rescued by a motorcycle club and sitting in protective custody. Ghost's voice was grim. These aren't the kind of people who forgive losses, Bone. These are people with resources, connections, power. What are you saying? I'm saying the children aren't safe. Not really. Not as long as this network is still operational. A knock at the door. Razor entered, his face pale. Bone, we've got a problem. What kind of a problem? The kind where 3 of the kids we rescued have gone missing from the hospital. Bone was on his feet before Razor finished the sentence. What do you mean missing? I mean their beds are empty. No sign of them. Security footage shows nothing. That's impossible. That's what I said. Unless someone knew exactly where the cameras were. Unless someone had inside help. Marcus appeared in the doorway. He'd been listening. His face had gone white. Which kids? Bone asked, though he already knew the answer. Tyler, Sophie, Danny. Marcus swayed. Mac caught him before he fell. No, Marcus whispered. No, no, no. We saved him. We got him out. They took him back, Bone said quietly. Then we get him again. Marcus's voice cracked. We can't. We have to. We will. Bone grabbed the boy's shoulders. Look at me. We will not let them hurt those kids, I promise you. You can't promise that. You couldn't promise it before, and you can't promise it now. The words hit Bone like a slap. Because Marcus was right. He couldn't promise. He tried to save them and failed. 3 children snatched from a hospital while under FBI protection gone. The fear came roaring back. I failed. Again. Elena pushed into the room. Bone, there's more. Ghost found something. Ghost pulled up another file. After the kids disappeared, I started looking at hospital staff, cross-referencing with the financial records from the ranch. And one of the night nurses, Carol Brennan, received a payment of $50,000 3 days ago from a shell company linked to the Desert Hope Foundation. She was paid to look the other way, Razor said. Worse, she was paid to facilitate. Security footage might show nothing, but I pulled the medication logs. Someone administered sedatives to all 3 children at exactly 2:15 in the morning, 30 minutes before they disappeared. Bone felt rage building in his chest. Where is she now? Gone. Didn't show off for her shift today. Her apartment is empty. Her car's missing. Find her. I'm trying, but Bone Ghost hesitated. There's something else. Something Lily said to Elena while you were gone. Elena stepped forward. She told me about a place. She called it the Mountain. She said that's where they take kids who are too much trouble, kids who try to escape, kids who know too much. Marcus made a sound like he'd been punched. You know about this, Bone said. It wasn't a question. Marcus nodded slowly. I heard guards talking about it. They said the mountain was where bad kids went to become good products, but I never knew where it was. I hoped it was just something they said to scare us. It's real, Ghost said. I've been looking for it for the past 3 hours, and I think I found it. He pulled up satellite imagery, a mountain range, Colorado Rockies, a facility built into the side of a peak partially hidden by forest. This is an old mining complex, abandoned in the 70s, purchased 8 years ago by a shell company, officially being renovated for private research. Unofficially, heat signatures show at least 50 people inside. The facility goes deep 5 levels based on the original mining surveys, and there's vehicle traffic, regular deliveries, always at night. Bones stared at the image. That's where they took them. Most likely. Then we go get them. Bone. Razor's voice was careful. We just hit one facility. We got lucky. This is different. This is fortified. Professional. We go in there, we might not come out. Then we don't come out. But those kids do. That's not a plan. That's suicide. Bone slammed his hand on the desk. Then what would you have me do? Sit here, wait for the FBI to move through their bureaucracy while 3 children are being transported to a facility we might never find again. I'd have you be smart, strategic, not, Razor stopped, not throw yourself into danger because you feel guilty. This isn't about guilt, isn't it? Elena's voice was quiet. 3 kids disappeared on our watch. You feel like you failed them. So now you're going to charge into an impossible situation to make up for it. Bone looked at her, at Razor, at the concern in their faces, and he realized they were right. He was letting fear drive him again. Fear of failure. Fear that he wasn't good enough, strong enough, fast enough to protect the people who needed him. Just like with Sarah. You're right, he said quietly. I can't do this alone, and I can't do it angry. He looked at Ghost. How long do we have? If they took the kids at 2 in the morning and it's a 10-hour drive to Colorado, they'll arrive at the facility around noon. It's 8 now. 4 hours. Can you get me everything on that facility, access points, security staffing? I can try. Then do it. Razor, call the brothers. Everyone. We're going to need more than 15 bikes for this. How many more? All of them. Every chapter within riding distance. I don't care if we have to wake up every Hell's Angel from here to Denver. We're going to need an army. Razor pulled out his phone. Marcus stepped forward. I'm coming. Marcus, don't tell me I can't. Tyler is my brother in everything but blood. I held his hand through the bars for 2 years. I promised him I'd keep him safe. I'm not breaking that promise. Bone studied the boy's face, saw the determination there, the absolute refusal to back down. You follow orders. You stay behind our lines. You don't take unnecessary risks. Agreed. Lily appeared in the doorway. She'd been so quiet that no one noticed her there. You need to know something, she said. Her voice was steady, clear. About the mountain. Everyone turned to look at her. There's a man there. I never saw his face, but I heard his voice. He came to the ranch twice. The guards called him Senator. He walked different than the others, talked different, like he owned everything. Ghost's fingers flew across his keyboard. Senator, that narrows it down. Let me cross-reference with... He stopped. Oh, hell. What? Senator James Mitchell. Oregon, on the Senate Judiciary Committee, sits on the Subcommittee for Child Welfare and Family Services. The irony was sickening. He's been blocking federal investigations into trafficking for years, Ghost continued. I thought it was just politics. But if he's a buyer, then he's been protecting his own interests. Bone finished. Lily stepped closer. He's the one who wanted to buy me. 3 times he came. 3 times they said no, but the last time, her voice wavered. The last time they said yes, they were going to give me to him. That's why Marcus and I ran. Bone knelt down in front of her. He's never going to touch you, I promise. But he might touch other kids. At the mountain right now. She was right. Bone stood up. Ghost find me everything on Senator Mitchell, where he lives, where he works, his schedule, his connections, everything. You're going after a sitting senator. I'm going after a child predator who happens to be a sitting senator. There's a difference. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Yeah. Mr. Harrison. A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. This is Margaret Chen with the FBI. We need to speak immediately. I'm listening. Not over the phone. My team will be at your location in 30 minutes. Please don't go anywhere. She hung up. Bone looked at his brothers. FBI's coming. 30 minutes. What do we tell them? Mac asked. The truth. That 3 children disappeared from federal custody and we're going to get them back. They're not going to let us mount a rescue operation. Then we don't ask for permission. The 30 minutes passed too quickly. 2 black SUVs pulled up to the gate. 6 agents emerged led by a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a sharper suit. Margaret Chen. She showed her credentials at the gate. Bone let them in. They sat in the common room, the FBI on one side, the Hells Angels on the other. The children had been moved to a back room away from the tension. Let me be clear, Chen began. What you did last night was reckless, dangerous, and technically illegal. We saved 12 children. You compromised an ongoing federal investigation. What investigation? Those kids had been in cages for years. Where was the FBI then? Chen's jaw tightened. We didn't know about the ranch until Ghost, your associate, tipped us off yesterday afternoon. And if he hadn't, how much longer would those kids have waited? That's not the point. That's exactly the point. Bone leaned forward. 3 of those children disappeared from a hospital this morning, from FBI protection. So forgive me if I don't have a lot of faith in the federal government's ability to keep them safe. Chen's expression flickered. Just for a moment. Surprise. Maybe even shame. You know about that. We know about a lot of things, like the mountain facility in Colorado, like Senator Mitchell's involvement, like the fact that this network spans at least 7 states. How? Chen stopped, composed herself. What else do you know? Enough to know that if we wait for official channels, those 3 kids are going to disappear forever. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Off the record, she finally said. Off the record. You're right. About all of it. We've been investigating this network for 2 years. Every time we get close, evidence disappears. Witnesses recant. Cases fall apart. We have a leak somewhere high up in the food chain. Mitchell, we suspect, but we can't prove it. He's protected, connected. Untouchable. No one's untouchable. Chen studied him. What are you planning to get those kids back? How? However we have to. I can't officially sanction a vigilante rescue mission. I'm not asking you to. Chen leaned back. But if someone were to provide actionable intelligence about the location of missing children, and if that someone were to ensure said children's safe extraction before federal agents arrived, to secure the scene, well, that would be different. Bone almost smiled. That would be convenient. Extremely, Chen pulled out a card. This is my direct line. When you find those children, and I'm confident you will, you call me immediately. Not local police, not state, me. She stood up. One more thing, Mr. Harrison. Senator Mitchell is scheduled to be at an event in Denver tonight. 8 o'clock, a children's charity gala. The irony. Indeed, if he were to be seen at that event, it would establish his alibi. Make it very difficult for him to have been anywhere near Colorado earlier in the day. Unless someone had evidence proving otherwise. Unless someone did. Chen walked toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, what you did last night, those 12 children, That mattered. It'll matter more when it's 15. After the FBI left, the clubhouse erupted into activity. Ghost worked his laptop, pulling up everything he could find on the mountain facility. Razor coordinated with other Hells Angels chapters. Mac and the others prepped weapons, supplies, medical gear. Elena worked with the children from the first rescue, trying to keep them calm while chaos swirled around them. And Bones stood at the window watching the desert, wrestling with the fear that threatened to paralyze him. What if you fail again? What if those 3 children die because you weren't fast enough, smart enough, good enough? What if you're doing it again? He turned. Marcus stood behind him. Doing what? Letting fear make your decisions. Marcus stepped closer. I can see it on your face. You're terrified you're going to fail. That we're going to get there, and those kids will already be dead. Bone didn't deny it. You know what I thought about every day for 3 years, Marcus continued. Every day in that cage, watching Lily get hurt, watching the other kids suffer. What? I thought about how I failed, how I couldn't protect them, how I was weak and useless, and if I was stronger, braver, better, maybe I could stop it. Marcus's voice cracked. I tortured myself with all the ways I wasn't enough. Marcus, but then you showed up, you and your brothers, and you know what I realized? What? That trying matters, even if you fail, even if it all goes wrong. The fact that you tried that means something. Marcus looked at him. You taught me that. Bone felt something shift in his chest. So stop standing here being afraid, Marcus said, and start being the man who kicks down doors and saves kids. Because that's who you are. That's who you've always been. From the mouths of children. Bone put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. When did you get so wise? About the same time I stopped being a kid. Marcus smiled. It was a sad smile. 3 years ago, when they put me in a cage. Ghost called from across the room. Bone, I've got it. They gathered around the laptop. The mountain facility has one main access road, heavily monitored, but Ghost zoomed in on the satellite image. The original mining surveys show ventilation shafts, old ones. Most are probably collapsed, but if even one is intact. We go in through the vents, Razor finished. It's risky. We don't know the condition, don't know where they lead. Do we have a better option? Ghost shook his head. Then that's the plan. Bone looked around at his brothers. How many riders do we have? 43 confirmed, from 6 chapters. They're already on the road. 43 men, going up against a fortified facility with at least 50 hostiles and unknown defensive capabilities. The odds were terrible, but 3 children were waiting. Tyler, Sophie, Danny. We leave in 1 hour, Bones said. Everyone gear up. This is going to be the hardest ride we've ever made. Lily appeared at his side. She pressed something into his hand. Her teddy bear. For Tyler, she said. So he knows we're coming. Bone looked down at the ragged toy. This little girl's most precious possession. I'll make sure he gets it. She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Grandpa Bone, she whispered. That's what I'm going to call you, if that's okay. Bone couldn't speak. His throat had closed up entirely. He just nodded. Elena appeared. I'm coming with you. Elena, it's too dangerous. Those children are going to need medical attention the second we get them out. Every second counts. You know I'm right. She was right. Stay behind the lines, no matter what happens. I promise. The hour passed in a blur. Weapons checked, routes planned, communications tested. 43 motorcycles lined up outside the clubhouse, their riders grim-faced and ready. Bones stood at the front looking at this army of leather-clad warriors who'd come from across 3 states to save 3 children they'd never met. This was what brotherhood meant. Razor rode up beside him. You ready for this? No, but we're doing it anyway. That's the spirit. Marcus climbed onto the back of Mac's bike again, but this time he carried something. A backpack with the names. Tyler had mentioned the evidence. He'd compiled everything that could bring down the network. If anything happened, if they didn't make it back, at least the truth would survive. Bone raised his hand. 43 engines roared to life. And they rode toward Colorado, toward the mountain, toward 3 children who'd already been failed by everyone else in their lives. This time would be different. It had to be. The journey took 8 hours. They rode hard, stopping only for fuel. By the time the Rocky Mountains came into view, the sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon. Ghost guided them via phone, directing them to a logging road 5 miles from the facility. They ditched the bikes and continued on foot through dense forest. Bone moved at the front, his military training flooding back. Hand signals, silent communication, tactical spacing. They reached the ridge overlooking the facility just as dusk fell, and Bone saw it. A massive concrete structure built into the mountainside. Guard towers, fences, armed patrols. It looked like a military installation. Jesus, Razor breathed beside him. Ghost's voice crackled through the radio. I'm showing heat signatures on 5 levels. Concentrated on levels 2 and 4. That's probably where they keep the kids. How many hostiles? 73 confirmed. Could be more. 73 against 43. Terrible odds. But they'd come too far to turn back now. The ventilation shaft is on the north side, Ghost continued. 300 yards from your position. Old mining tunnel. Collapsed about 50 yards in, but there's a gap. Should be big enough for a man to squeeze through. Should be. I'm working with 80-year-old survey maps. No guarantees. Bone looked at his brothers, saw the determination on their faces. All right, here's how this works. Team 1 Razor Doc and 10 others, you're with me. We go through the vent. We find those kids. We get them out. What about the rest of us? Mac asked. You wait for my signal. When you hear it, you come in loud. Front gate. Make as much noise as possible. Draw their attention. Give us cover to extract the children. What's the signal? Bone pulled out a flare gun. You'll know it when you see it. They moved through the forest like ghosts. By the time they reached the ventilation shaft, full darkness had fallen. The shaft entrance was overgrown with vegetation hidden behind decades of neglect. Bone pulled it aside and looked down into darkness. That's a long drop, Doc observed. 50 feet according to the survey, Ghost confirmed through the radio. They rigged ropes and descended one by one into the earth. The tunnel was worse than Bone expected. Narrow, unstable. The air thick with decades of dust and decay. They crawled forward inch by inch until they reached the collapse Ghost had mentioned. There, Razor pointed his flashlight at a gap in the rubble. Just big enough. Just big enough was optimistic. The gap was maybe 2 feet wide. Bone went first. He squeezed through, feeling rocks scrape against his back, tasting dust and fear. On the other side, the tunnel widened, and in the distance he could see light. They moved toward it. The tunnel ended at a metal grate. Through it, Bone could see a hallway. Fluorescent lights, concrete walls. They were in. Razor used bolt cutters on the grate. It came free with a soft squeal of metal. They dropped into the hallway one by one. Which way? Doc whispered. Bone closed his eyes, listened. In the distance, voices, footsteps, and underneath it all, something else. Crying, children crying. This way. They moved through corridors that looked more like a prison than a research facility. Steel doors, security cameras, armed guards at every junction. The guards went down quietly. Pressure points, sleeper holds. 20 years of military training put to use. They reached a stairwell and descended. Level 2, where Ghost said the heat signatures were concentrated. At the bottom of the stairs, a security door, keypad lock. Ghost, I need a code. Working on it? Gimme got it. 74291. Bone punched in the numbers. The door clicked open. And they saw it. Cells, dozens of them, each one containing a child. But these weren't cages like at the ranch. These were proper prison cells, reinforced, designed to hold people who fought back. "Tyler?" Marcus's voice echoed down the corridor. "Tyler, are you here?" A small voice answered from somewhere deep in the facility. "Marcus." Marcus took off running before Bone could stop him. "Marcus, wait." But the boy was gone, disappearing around a corner. Bone cursed and followed. They found Marcus at a cell door, his hands wrapped around the bars, staring at the boy inside. "Tyler, alive, unharmed." "You came," Tyler whispered. "You came again." "I'll always come," Marcus said, "always." Razor appeared with bolt cutters. The lock shattered. Tyler threw himself into Marcus's arms. "Where are Sophie and Danny?" Bone asked. Tyler pointed down the corridor. "2 doors down. They're together." They found them. Both alive, both terrified but unharmed. "How many others?" Bone asked. Tyler's face went pale. 47. Bone felt the number hit him like a hammer. 47 children. They'd come for 3, but there were 47. "Can we get them all out?" Razor asked. Bone looked down the corridor, at the cells stretching into the distance, at the children's faces pressed against the bars. "We don't have a choice." He pulled out the flare gun and fired it through a window. Red light exploded across the sky. And 30 seconds later, all hell broke loose. The sound of motorcycles, gunfire, explosions. Mac and the others hitting the front gate exactly as planned. "Move," Bone shouted. "Get these doors open, all of them." His team spread out, cutting locks, breaking hinges, tearing open every cell they could find. Children poured into the corridor. Some ran, some couldn't walk, some just stood there frozen by years of trauma. "This way," Elena's voice. She'd come through with the second wave. "Follow me, we're going home." Bone moved from cell to cell, helping children out, carrying the ones who couldn't move on their own. And then he saw him. At the end of the corridor, a man in an expensive suit flanked by 2 guards. Senator James Mitchell. Their eyes met. Mitchell smiled. "You're making a terrible mistake. The only mistake was letting you operate for this long. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A predator, a monster, a coward who hurts children." Mitchell's smile faltered. He turned to run. Bone didn't shoot him. That wasn't who he was. Instead, he tackled him, drove him into the concrete floor, felt the satisfying crunch of bone meeting stone. "You're done," Bone said, pinning him down. "Your network is done. Every child you've ever hurt is going to see you rot in prison. The circle will never let me talk. They'll kill me before I can testify." "Then I guess you better hope the FBI gets here before they do." Sirens echoed through the mountain, federal agents flooding the facility. Ghost had kept his promise. He'd tipped off Agent Chen the moment they breached. Mitchell went pale. "You can't do this. I have rights. I have protection." "You have nothing." FBI agents swarmed in. Mitchell was dragged away in handcuffs, screaming about lawyers and immunity. Bone didn't listen. He was too busy watching the children, 47 of them being let out of cells, blinking in the harsh light, uncertain if this was real or just another cruel dream. Elena moved among them, checking injuries, offering comfort, being the calm in the midst of chaos. And Marcus stood with Tyler, Sophie, and Danny, all 4 of them, holding each other, crying alive. Razor appeared at Bone's side. "We got them, all of them." "How many?" 47 kids. 47. Bone felt his legs go weak. He leaned against the wall. They'd done it. Against impossible odds. Against a fortified facility. Against a network that spanned the country. They'd done it. But as he watched the children being led to safety, as he saw the fear slowly leaving their eyes, one thought kept echoing in his mind. How many more facilities are there? How many more children are still waiting? The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. Agent Margaret Chen found Bone sitting on a rock outside the facility, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in shades of gold and crimson. 47 children, she said, sitting down beside him. That's 47 lives you saved last night. 47 who'll need years of therapy to recover from what was done to them. But they're alive to receive that therapy. That's because of you. Bone didn't respond. Chen pulled out a tablet. We've been processing the facility's records for the past 6 hours. What we found, she shook her head. Senator Mitchell wasn't just a buyer. He was a founding member of the organization running this. They call themselves the Circle. Marcus mentioned that name. They've been operating for over 20 years. Politicians, judges, business leaders. At least 50 members that we can confirm, maybe more. She swiped through files. The mountain facility, one of 7 we've identified so far. There could be dozens more. The number hit Bone like a hammer. Dozens more facilities, hundreds more children. We're going to need your help, Chen continued. Official help. What you've built here, this network of bikers willing to fight for kids, that's valuable. We could use that. You want us to work with the FBI. I want us to work together. You have reach we don't. Trust from communities that don't trust federal agents. And you have something else. What's that? You give a damn, not because it's your job, because it's who you are. Chen stood up. Think about it. In the meantime, we've got Mitchell in custody. He's already trying to cut a deal. What kind of deal? Names for a reduced sentence. He's offering to give up the entire Circle network. And you're going to take it. We don't have a choice. Without his testimony, the others walk. With it, we can bring down the whole organization. Bone's jaw tightened. So he gets off easy. He'll do 25 years minimum. In protective custody because the Circle will want him dead. Chen's expression was grim. It's not perfect justice, but it's the best we can get. She walked away, leaving Bone alone with his thoughts. 25 years for Mitchell. The other members of the Circle would face trials that could take years. The network would be exposed, but justice would be slow. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But 47 children were free. 12 from the ranch, 47 from the mountain, 59 total. That had to count for something. Elena found him an hour later. The kids are being transported to a secure federal facility. They'll be processed, evaluated, reunited with families where possible. She sat down beside him. Ghost found something in the mountain's database. What? Lily's file, complete intake records, including where she was taken from, who her parents are. Bone looked at her. And David and Maria Santos, Tucson, Arizona. They reported her missing 3 years ago. A 5-year-old girl vanished from their car while Maria ran inside a hospital to pick up test results. Elena's voice softened. They've been searching ever since. Started a foundation. Hired private investigators. Never gave up. Does Lily know? Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. Bone thought about it. This little girl who'd survived 3 years of hell, who'd finally found safety, who'd started to heal. And now they were going to tell her that her parents, real parents who loved her and never stopped looking, were alive and waiting. It could save her, or it could destroy her. We have to tell her, he said finally. She deserves to know. They found Lily in one of the FBI's mobile command units sitting with Marcus. The two of them were sharing a sandwich, talking quietly. When Lily saw Bone and Elena, her face lit up. Did you get Tyler? Is he okay? He's fine, safe. All of them are safe. Good. She took another bite of sandwich. That's good. Lily, can we talk to you for a minute, alone? Marcus stood up. I'll give you guys some space. No, Lily grabbed his hand. Stay, please. Marcus looked at Bone, who nodded. They sat down across from her. Lily, Elena began. When we rescued the children from the mountain, we found files. Records about all the kids who'd been held there, including you. Lily's grip on Marcus's hand tightened. Your file had information about where you came from, about your family. I don't remember my family. I know. You were very young when you were taken, but they remember you, and they've been looking for you ever since. Lily's eyes went wide. They have. Your parents' names are David and Maria Santos. They live in Arizona. They never stopped searching, never gave up hope. Tears started streaming down Lily's face. But I don't remember them, she whispered. What if they don't want me anymore? What if I'm not the same girl they lost? Bone knelt down in front of her. I talked to your mom last night. Do you know what the first thing she asked was? Lily shook her head. She asked if you were okay, if you were safe, if you were happy. Bone took her hands. She didn't ask if you remembered her. She didn't ask if you changed. She just wanted to know that you were alive. What about Marcus? Lily's voice rose in panic. If I go with them, what happens to Marcus? Your parents want him too. Lily blinked. What? They said you're a package deal. They know what he did for you. They know he's family. They want both of you. Marcus made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Really? Lily asked. They'd take both of us. Really? Lily looked at Marcus. We'd be real brother and sister. We already are, Marcus said. This just makes it official. She launched herself at him, hugging him so tight he could barely breathe. And watching them, Bone felt something settle in his chest. This was why he fought. This moment right here. Two children who'd survived hell getting a chance at a real family. It was enough. The Santos family arrived the next morning. Bone watched them pull up in a rental car, moving like people walking on sacred ground. David was tall with graying hair and eyes that looked like they hadn't slept in 3 years. Maria was smaller with the same brown hair. Lily had the same shape to her eyes. They stood at the gate, holding hands so tightly their knuckles were white. Bone went to meet them. Mr. and Mrs. Santos, we know who you are, David interrupted. His voice was rough with emotion. You're the man who saved our daughter. She saved herself. I just opened the door. Maria stepped forward. Can we see her, please? Bone led them through the temporary command center to the room where Lily waited with Marcus. When Maria saw her daughter, she stopped in the doorway. A sound came out of her that Bone would never forget. The sound of a mother seeing her child after 3 years of not knowing if she was alive. Lily. The name was barely a whisper. Lily stared at the woman, at the man beside her, searching their faces for something familiar. And then very slowly, recognition dawned in her eyes. Mama? Maria crossed the room and dropped to her knees. She didn't touch Lily, didn't grab her, just knelt there, tears streaming down her face. Yes, baby, it's Mama. I'm here. I'm finally here. I'm sorry I forgot you. Oh, sweetheart, no, 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 no. Maria's voice broke. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. You were so brave. You survived. You're here, that's all that matters. I tried to remember. I tried so hard. Shh, it's okay. We're going to make new memories. We're going to have so much time to make new memories. Lily looked at David, who was standing behind Maria, tears running down his face. Daddy? David knelt beside his wife. Hey, princess, I missed you so much. I missed you too. Even when I couldn't remember your face, I missed you. And then Lily did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She reached out and touched her mother's cheek. Maria sobbed and pulled her daughter into her arms. David wrapped them both up, and the three of them held each other and cried. Marcus stood off to the side watching. His face was carefully blank, but Bone could see the emotions churning beneath. Maria looked up from the embrace. Her eyes found Marcus. You're Marcus. He nodded, unable to speak. She held out her hand. Come here. He hesitated. Please, come here. Slowly, uncertainly, Marcus walked toward them. Maria reached up and took his hand. Thank you, she said. Thank you for protecting my daughter. Thank you for loving her when we couldn't. Thank you for being her brother. Marcus's careful mask cracked. A tear escaped down his cheek. She protected me too, he said quietly. When things got really bad, she would hold my hand through the bars. She would tell me stories about dragons. She kept me alive as much as I kept her alive. Maria pulled him into the embrace. 4 people now, a family being born from the ashes of tragedy. Bone watched from the doorway. Elena appeared beside him. "That's beautiful," she whispered. "Yeah, you did that. You made that happen." "We all did." "No." She looked at him. 3 days ago, those children were in cages. That boy was alone. That family was broken. Now look at them. Bone shook his head. Don't you dare downplay what you've done. Not now, not after everything." He looked at her, this woman who knew him better than anyone. "There's something else," she said. "Ghost found more information about Marcus's mother." Bone's stomach clenched. What kind of information? She didn't abandon him, not the way he thought. Elena pulled out a folder. Her name was Jennifer Bennett. She was an addict, that part is true. But 2 weeks before Marcus was taken, she checked herself into rehab. She got clean. She got clean. Spent 6 months fighting her demons. And when she got out, she went looking for Marcus. Elena's voice was thick with emotion. She spent 2 years searching, went to police, hired investigators. She didn't have money, so she worked 3 jobs and spent every penny trying to find him. Where is she now? Elena's expression answered the question before her words did. She died 8 months ago, cancer. Bone closed his eyes. But there's more, Elena continued. In her final week, she saw the news coverage, the raid on the mountain, the children being rescued. She saw Marcus's face. She knew he was alive. She knew he was safe. And she wrote him a letter. Elena handed Bone an envelope, old, worn, addressed in shaky handwriting. "To my son Marcus, wherever you are." "He needs to see this," Bone said. "I know, but not today. Let him have today with his new family. Tomorrow is soon enough for grief." She was right. They watched the Santos family for a few more minutes, then quietly left them alone. The next 3 days were a whirlwind. FBI interviews, medical evaluations, social workers assessing each of the rescued children, media coverage that turned the Hells Angels into unlikely heroes. Bone refused every interview request. So did the other members. They hadn't done this for recognition, but the world noticed anyway. Donations poured in, money for the children, money for their recovery, money for legal fees and medical bills and therapy sessions that would continue for years. More importantly, people reached out to help. Former law enforcement, social workers, therapists, families willing to open their homes to children who had nowhere else to go. And in the midst of all this, Ghost worked. He compiled evidence, built cases, traced the Circle's network across the country. Operation Clean Sweep launched on a Tuesday morning. 23 arrests in 12 states. Politicians, judges, business leaders, law enforcement officials. The Circle exposed and dismantled in a single coordinated strike. The news coverage was relentless. Every channel, every newspaper, every website. The Hells Angels chapter became famous overnight, not for violence, not for crime. For protection, for justice, for riding into hell to save children no one else would save. Bone stood at the window of the clubhouse watching the media circus beyond the gate. "It's overwhelming," Razor said beside him. "Yeah, but it's also opportunity." Chen's offer working with the FBI officially, building something that lasts. Bone thought about it. 59 children saved. But Ghost had identified 15 more facilities. Maybe dozens more beyond that. How many children were still waiting? "We're going to do it," he said. "We're going to build a program, something official, something that can actually make a difference." "The Guardian program," Razor said. "That's what we'll call it." "I like it." They spent the next week planning. A network spanning 3 states to start. Safe houses, vetted foster families, legal aid, therapy services, Everything a child needed to rebuild a life that had been shattered. And at the center of it all, the Hells Angels, not as vigilantes, as protectors. David and Maria Santos stayed at the clubhouse during the transition. They spent every moment with Lily and Marcus building bonds that had been severed by violence and time. On the third day, Bone found Marcus sitting alone in the garage, staring at the envelope Elena had given him. His mother's letter. "You don't have to read it if you're not ready," Bone said. Marcus looked up. "I want to. I'm just scared." "Of what?" "Of what she'll say. What if she blames me for not finding her? What if she—" His voice cracked. "What if she died thinking I didn't care?" Bone sat down beside him. "Your mother spent 2 years looking for you. She never stopped. Even when she got sick. Even when it was hopeless. She never stopped." He paused. "That's not the behavior of someone who thought you didn't care. That's the behavior of someone who loved you more than anything." Marcus's hands shook as he opened the envelope. The letter inside was short, written in trembling handwriting that got shakier toward the end. Bone watched Marcus read it, saw the tears start to fall, saw the boy's shoulders shake with silent sobs. When Marcus finished, he couldn't speak. He just handed the letter to Bone. "My dearest Marcus, if you're reading this, it means you survived. I always knew you would. You were always stronger than me, always braver. I'm so sorry I couldn't find you. I tried. God, how I tried. But some things are beyond our control. I saw you on the news, saw you being rescued, saw you alive and safe and strong. In that moment, all the pain of the past 3 years didn't matter because you made it. You survived. I want you to know that none of this was your fault, not your abduction, not my addiction, not any of it. You were a child. You deserve better than what life gave you. But I also want you to know that you were loved every single day. Even when I was at my worst, even when I was too sick to function, I loved you. I never stopped loving you. Be happy, Marcus. Find a family. Build a life. Don't let what happened to you define who you become. I'm proud of you, son. I always was. I always will be. Love, Mom." Bone folded the letter carefully and handed it back. Marcus clutched it to his chest and wept. And Bone sat with him, this 15-year-old boy who'd carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, and let him cry. 1 week after the rescue, Agent Chen returned with news. "Senator Mitchell is cooperating fully. We've identified 43 members of the Circle. Arrest warrants have been issued for all of them." She pulled up a map on her tablet, dotted with red pins. 19 facilities confirmed. 8 have already been raided. 73 more children rescued in the past week. Bone stared at the numbers. 73 more. "And we're just getting started," Chen continued. "With Mitchell's testimony, we're unraveling a network that goes back decades. Hundreds of children, thousands of victims. How long until trials? Years. This is going to be the biggest trafficking case in U.S. history, but we'll get convictions, every single one of them." She stood up. "There's something else. The federal government wants to fund your program. The Guardian program, full allocation, 5-year renewable grant." Bone felt his heart skip. "How much?" "Enough to expand to 5 states, hire full-time staff, build a real infrastructure." "When?" "The paperwork will be ready next week. All you have to do is sign." After Chen left, Bone sat alone in his office. He pulled out the photograph from his locket. Sarah, his daughter, dead 12 years. "I did it, sweetheart," he whispered. "I built something, something that matters. Something that will help children like you deserve to be helped." He thought about the journey, the midnight knock, Marcus and Lily at his gate, the fear he'd felt, the doubt, and he thought about what he'd learned. Fear didn't disappear just because you succeeded once. It would always be there whispering its doubts. But courage wasn't the absence of fear. Courage was trying anyway. The Santos family prepared to leave on a Sunday morning. Lily had grown stronger over the past week. Her nightmares were less frequent. Her smile came easier. She talked about the future now, instead of just surviving the present. Marcus had changed too. The haunted look in his eyes had faded, replaced by something that looked almost like peace. They stood in the clubhouse common room, surrounded by bikers who'd become family. "We'll visit," Maria promised. "Once a month. The kids want to stay connected." "The door's always open," Bone said. Lily hugged every member of the club. She saved Bone for last. "I don't want to say goodbye," she said, her arms wrapped around his waist. "Then don't. Say see you later instead." "See you later." "See you later, sweetheart." She pulled back and looked up at him. "Thank you, Grandpa Bone, for everything." "You're welcome, Lily. You're so very welcome." Marcus shook hands with everyone, but when he got to Bone, the handshake turned into a hug. "I'm going to make something of my life," Marcus said. "Something that matters." "You already have." "No, I mean I'm going to finish school, go to college, and then I'm coming back here to help, to work with the Guardian program. We'll be waiting." The Santos family loaded into their car. Lily in the back, Marcus beside her, hands intertwined. David and Maria in the front, looking back at the clubhouse that had become an unlikely sanctuary. The car pulled away. Bone stood at the gate watching until it turned the corner and disappeared. Elena appeared beside him. "You okay?" "Yeah, I think so." "The house is going to feel empty without them." "It won't be empty for long. There are more kids coming, more families to help, more work to do." Elena smiled. "The Guardian program." "Yeah." She reached out and took his hand. "I have a question." "What's that?" "What are we?" Bone looked at her. This woman who'd loved him, left him, come back to him when he needed her most. "I don't know what we are," he said honestly, "but I know I don't want to do this without you." "Is that a proposal?" "Maybe." "Maybe?" She raised an eyebrow. Bone got down on one knee right there at the gate. "Elena, you're my partner in everything, in this program, in this life, in whatever comes next. I don't have a ring. I don't have a fancy speech. I just have this life I'm building, and a question I should have asked years ago." He took her hand. "Will you marry me again?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Yes, you idiot. Yes." He kissed her right there at the gate, and some of the brothers cheered, and some of them catcalled, and Bone didn't care. For the first time in 12 years, he felt whole. 1 year passed. 365 days of building something from nothing. The Guardian program had grown beyond anything Bone imagined. What started as a desperate promise had become a network spanning 5 states. 217 children helped in the first year, connected with families, given therapy, given hope. And at the center of it all, the Hell's Angels, not as criminals, as protectors. Bones stood in his office looking at the wall covered in photographs. Children who'd passed through their doors, families who'd been reunited, lives that had been rebuilt. Razor knocked on the doorframe. "You've got a visitor." Bone turned. Marcus stood at the gate. He was taller now, 16 years old, carrying himself like someone much older. The haunted look in his eyes had faded, replaced by something steadier. "Hey, old man," Marcus called. Bone felt a grin spread across his face. "Who are you calling old?" They met in the middle. The handshake turned into a hug, same as always. "You look good," Bone said. "Arizona treating you well?" "Better than I expected. The Santos family is—" Marcus shook his head. "They're incredible. They treat me like I've always been theirs." "That's because you have. Family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up. You taught me that." They walked inside together. The clubhouse had changed. The garage was still there, still functional, but half the space had been converted. A reception area, offices, a playroom for children waiting to be placed. Marcus took it all in. You've been busy. The work never stops. How many kids this year? 217 placed with families, connected with services, given a chance. That's incredible. It's not enough. It'll never be enough, but it's a start. Elena appeared. When she saw Marcus, her face lit up. Look at you. She pulled him into a hug. You're so tall. Are they feeding you? I'm fine, Elena. Maria's cooking is amazing. She's teaching me her grandmother's recipes. Elena held him at arm's length. You look healthy, happy. Are you happy? Yeah, Marcus said softly. I am. Good, that's all I needed to hear. After the reunion settled, Bone pulled Marcus aside. I'm guessing this isn't just a social visit. You're right, Marcus took a breath. I'm graduating early. The Santos hired tutors. I've been doing accelerated coursework. I'll have my diploma in 2 months. That's impressive. What's next? College eventually, but first, Marcus leaned forward. I want to come back here, work with the Guardian program full-time. Bones studied the boy's face. That's a big commitment. I know, the work is hard, emotionally draining. You see things that stay with you forever. I've already seen things that stay with me forever. At least this way I can make sure other kids don't have to. What do David and Maria say? They support it. They want me to be happy. And this makes you happy. Marcus gestured around them. This is where I feel like I can make a difference. Bone was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. When can you start? 2 months after graduation. We'll be ready. They shook hands, and Bone felt something settle in his chest. This boy, this survivor, was going to help save other children. The cycle of pain was being broken, replaced by a cycle of healing. That night, long after Marcus had left, Bone sat in his office one final time. He looked at Sarah's photograph. I think I finally understand, he whispered. Why I survived when you didn't. Why I had to keep living even when I wanted to stop. He traced her face with his finger. It wasn't punishment. It was purpose. I was meant to be here to save these kids, to build something that lasts. A knock at the door. Elena entered. It's late. Come to bed. In a minute. She sat beside him looking at Sarah's picture. She'd be proud of you, Elena said softly. You think, I know. You've saved so many children, Bone, so many families. You've built something beautiful out of grief. We built it, all of us. But you started it. That night when Marcus knocked on the door, you could have turned them away. You were so afraid of failing. I was terrified. But you tried anyway. That's the difference between a good man and a great one. Bone closed the locket. Come on, Elena said, standing up. Tomorrow's a big day, the board meeting for the federal grant expansion. Don't remind me. It's going to be fine. They're going to approve it. We'll see. But as they walked out of the office, Bone felt something he hadn't felt in years. Optimism. Real, genuine hope for the future. The next morning, Bone stood before a panel of federal officials. He'd prepared a speech, memorized statistics, practiced answers. He threw it all out in the first minute. I'm not going to read numbers at you. You've seen the reports. You know what we've accomplished. He looked at the faces watching him. What I want to tell you is a story. 14 months ago, a boy showed up at my door at 2:47 in the morning. He was 15 years old. He was carrying his little sister. They'd walked 40 miles through the desert to reach us. He told them everything, the ranch, the mountain, the circle, the children in cages, the impossible rescue. When he finished, the room was silent. A woman in the center spoke first. Mr. Harrison, what you've described is remarkable. But how do we know this will continue? How do we know the Guardian program is sustainable? Because there will always be children who need help, and there will always be people willing to fight for them. Bone leaned forward. You're not funding a program. You're funding a promise. A promise that no child will ever fall through the cracks again. The deliberation took hours, but when the call came, the answer was yes. Full federal funding, 5-year renewable grant, expansion to 10 states. The Guardian program was official. That night, the clubhouse erupted in celebration. But Bones stood outside looking at the stars. And he made one final promise. To Sarah, to Marcus, to Lily, to all the children still waiting for rescue. I won't stop. I'll keep fighting for as long as I have breath in my body. A sound at the gate. Bone turned. A girl stood there, maybe 13, bruises on her arms, fear in her eyes. Behind her, clutching her hand, a younger boy, maybe 7. Same look, same fear, same desperate hope. The cycle beginning again. The girl looked up at Bone. Her voice was barely a whisper. Please, they said you help people. They said you save kids like us. Bone looked at these children, at the work that would never end, at the promise he'd made. He opened the door wider. Come inside, you're safe now. They stepped through the threshold, and somewhere watching over them all, Sarah smiled. Because her father had finally found his purpose, not in grief, not in loss, but in protection, in justice, in love. The Hells Angels weren't looking to be heroes. They were just people who saw someone in need and chose to act. And sometimes that's all it takes to change the world. One knock at midnight, one open door, one promise kept, and a legacy that would echo through generations. Proof that even in the darkest corners of the world, there are those who will always stand up, fight back, and protect the innocent. No matter the cost, no matter the odds, no matter what, that's what family does. That's what heroes do. And that's what the Guardian program was built on. A promise that would never be broken, a door that would never close, and a man who finally understood that saving one child at a time was how you change the world. Bone looked at the 2 new children, at their terrified faces, at the hope flickering beneath their fear, and he smiled. Welcome home. The end. Total word count, 24,847 words.